One and all, we have got something incredibly special here. An early preview of the upcoming expansion, Knights of Cross and Rose. And to run me through it all, we had to get someone from the development team. We had to get the most infectiously enthusiastic person I could think of from the developer team. I'm joined by the wonderful Winston, who clearly has been working out to fit in that Knights Templar armor. Great to have you on, Winston.
This looks sick below me. I just wish, I wish I had that shield, right? Great to be here. Great to be on. Excited to dive into Knights of Cross and Rose and see what's going on.
Yeah, and this is interesting because we're going to have some gameplay footage coming in. The first experience we're going to get, a little preview of the things that we're going to be looking at. We are going to have a mixture, so we've got both 1v1, and we have also got, I think, the first witnessing of free-for-all with Knights of Cross and Rose. And I do apologize in advance for the things that I do. I won't spoil it too much.
That was an interesting game.
It was. Like, we'll get into it. It's going to be fun because now, like, I'm usually here trying to figure out what people are doing and thinking. I'm going to be able to give my thought process, so feel free to judge me all the way through. But I believe we get to begin by judging some of your colleagues because we have actually got a game here on one of the new maps. So let's get ready to kick off of this as we hop on. Because we have got Knights Templar up against House of Lancaster for the very first time ever in the history of Age of Empires 4, at least when it comes to the content that people are going to get their hands on. Run me through this, Winston, because this is an interesting map we've got here. It actually came out a lot better than I was expecting based on the art. Because I thought this was going to be like a hard river and a bit of a weird campy map, but this looks really cool.
Yeah, Relic River has fast turned into one of, if not my favorite. I think this is just really, really cool. We have the kind of the sloping waterfalls and these elevations going up towards these contested points. And you can see the resources kind of get more rich and abundant as you go up. So not a ton of gold and stone close to the player space. They're kind of forced into this contested zone. And in a team game, you sort of spawn in a line on those lower halves, right? So it's one of those unique team game spawns. But yeah, no, Relic River, definitely really awesome. Very excited for it. So this is Felipe versus Match. So they're playing the new civs offered in Knights of Cross and Rose. So very excited we get to showcase and talk about them. And feel free to ask any questions about them as we dive into a game with them.
I want to start with Knights Templar. It's weird when I'm saying Knights of Templar, but Knights Templar. I don't know why this always happened with AoE 4, because I was saying about this with like Japanese, where like the Japanese, then French, and then certain other civs, their pronunciation is very different. Like some of them are as if they're talking themselves, some as if someone else is talking about them. Like Abbasid Dynasty versus French. But yes, Knights Templar, we got to start with this one because we talked a little bit before we came on. And my takeaway from this civ initially, really unique. Love the perspective on this. But it's probably, I want to say, the most Age of Empires 2 civ we have in 4, right? With things like, for example, the fact that you age up in your town center.
Yeah, there's certainly an element of that, right? It's a new approach for Age of Empires 4, but the aging up at the TC is pretty unique. That's the Templar headquarters is their capital TC. It is renamed. It has some unique elements to it, like being the Pilgrim spawn point and doing some other things. But being able to age up there is quite interesting. You have access to these unique age ups, and it's pretty interesting with the commandery system. So we felt that worked out quite nicely.
Yeah, and also something that took me by surprise. I wasn't expecting this. What was the thought process behind no lumber camps? Because this is, I feel like I'm watching Atlanteans from Age of Myth here.
Yeah, so that's actually a little bit derived from the history, right? So it's called landscape preservation, which, yeah, as you pulled it up just there, the Knights Templar, like, they didn't have access to these massive swaths of land. Their power was really consolidated around like small temples and monasteries, right? Like obviously keeps and fortifications, and they had land, they had space, but they're actually very clever with their land usage. Back in this time, right? You think of the monasteries of this era, and they were really thought of as like, all these great vineyards and stuff. But that was just kind of an example of how they had to be like kind of creative in how they used the land they had. Because, a king just has so much land that they could kind of be in like these big, massive kingdoms, right? They could kind of be a little more like lazy, if you will, with how
Yeah.
they spent like how efficient they were with the land, right? So that's kind of the inspiration from it, and also it's just kind of nice macro wise. It's a very simple economic bonus. It's very easy to use, right? It
Yeah.
kind of makes the game feel a lot smoother and you know just plays nice, right?
I love how in the early days he's pretty much just chosen to be France. Like this is the thing I predict as like people are going to lean towards the French here. So few unique things that come out. I did test Knights Hospitalier personally. I don't know how I feel about healing in Field Age. I've always been very controversial about it, but I do like the vibe of this kind of synergy. It's really cool because landmarks usually offer this way of creating unique combos as the game goes on. But I feel almost because Knights Templar has 3 different unique choices, it takes that comboing concept of landmarks a step further.
Yeah, the kind of combination of building both your bonuses and your units is definitely unique, right? You get a permanent passive bonus without like a ton of interaction, so you're just going to have that like passive element to it, and then you're kind of building a unique unit roster as you go with the Knights Templar. So very interesting stuff there, yeah.
Now we got to talk about the uniqueness on the other side because we actually haven't given any justification or praise to House of Lancaster, which is sinful as a Brit here. We're already seeing one of the new landmarks coming out here, the Lancaster Castle, which has a very unique kind of mustering ability that we're going to see coming in later. I was looking at this Civ, and honestly, I don't know if this is sinful for a Brit to say. I don't really resonate with English, but I kind of dig the vibe of House of Lancaster. I was a little bit worried when I saw defensive and range focus that it was just going to be a copy and paste template. But you guys done some very unique things to make this feel different than just standard English.
Yeah, and Lancaster Castle, I mean, I just love that front gate, which is, that historical building is it's still standing today. So you can go see this just massive, like, gate structure, which just looks so unique. And so we really had to put that prominently on the building. It's quite beautiful indeed. But yeah, this muster, right? So the concept comes from, like, how the Civ plays, right? So they have access to the manor, which is a unique economic building which you invest in and it generates resources over time. And the big question mark around playing House of Lancaster is do you invest now or do you invest later, like the timing of it. And something we found when playing, and something that's kind of logical, is I over invested and now I'm kind of in trouble. And that's where the House of Lancaster comes in. It synergizes with that investment by saying the more manors you build, the better those levies are going to be. So if you do go for a bunch of levies, if you do go for a bunch of manors, you can then levy to kind of like reinforce your defenses.
Yeah, and it's quite a nice perk because like 45 wood, 70 food, these things pay off quite quickly, especially when you consider they're also a house combined in that. And then you have these kind of muster abilities to give the extra perk. Now, this is, we don't need to talk too much about this. The White Tower, we've seen this before. This is Philippe being a bit too normie for my liking. But in fairness, I did notice that the House of Lancaster, for anyone worried about, I guess, the toxic elements of English, because we have to highlight that. Like, for some people, the attack speed aura, the ease of farming, is seen as like oh my god, he has so much easier. House of Lancaster doesn't have those things, right? You stripped away some of the OG elements that English had.
Yeah, in general, almost every keep in AoE 4 has some unique element, some unique thing that we want it to do, right? And the White Tower for base English, it has access to training all these units, and that's one of the English perks. And then the White Tower trains them way faster. But with the House of Lancaster, when you build a keep, you actually get 3 Earl's Guard, which is their unique man-at-arm, for free. So that's just kind of an instant kickback when you build a keep, and some really fast tempo behind that. And so you also get 1 more damage on your Demi-Lancers, another unique unit, and the Earl's Guards. So you will see, if you clicked on 1, you'd see the +1 damage already, and that is granted by a House Unified. Which is meaning that your keep is active, so you get 1 more damage. You add more keeps, you get even more damage, which is very, very interesting indeed. Ooh, a pilgrim being harassed on her way to the sacred site, a new mechanic in the game.
Yeah, this is an interesting thing with the Knights Templar. I've had a mixed bag with this, and we'll see why later. But the whole idea is like they spawn out the TC every 60 seconds, and you can also buff up the amount you get via text in your TC. But also, it's another big reason why you should be looking at the fortress which the Knights Templar have. I'd love to talk more about this fortress, because I think this was the other component that, to me, when we talked about it last night, felt very Age of Empires 2-esque, because it is a landmark, but it also isn't.
Yeah, exactly. And it's super unique to Knights Templar, right? Like, It kind of reminds me a little bit of Chinese, where you can kind of escape getting landmark sniped, for example, by adding an extra landmark as you age up and just grabbing a random dynasty just to survive, right? But here, yeah, the Knights Templar can build as many landmarks as they can afford, essentially, right? With each fortress, you're adding another landmark to the enemy's win condition, but that also has its downsides, right? If you put your keeps in forward positions, well, then you could suddenly find that all you have left is your town center for the landmarks, and it's an interesting element. It's very unique, and we found it to be very fun when playing with and against that. There's kind of some crazy moments that can arise with Knights Templar hiding a keep in the fortress, rather, in some random corner of the map, or trying to defend it, which is very fun.
Now, I love what we got coming out here. He went for the Chevalier Confrère, which is for the French. This is a very unique unit. Something I noticed with some of the components of Knights Templar, when I talked to you, and you're a Doa guy, and I don't know if this was actually part of the iteration, I think I said, like, there's some Legion Commander-esque elements here, because later in the game, there's a unit that can basically level its stats up by killing things. And then you have these guys that for every heavy cav unit nearby, they get fatter.
Yeah, getting that extra, it's kind of tying into, they're stronger together, right? And yeah, we just wanted to see how that played out. So their stats really early on in Feudal aren't the best, but as you build up that mass, and even if you get to late game with some other, cavalry stat stacking elements that you can find on Knights Templar, you can find a big mass of these to be very, very intimidating with a lot of additional health.
All right. Okay, sorry, I just had to change the setting, folks, because, like, it was driving me nuts. I had something turned on, which I think I fixed, but apparently I haven't. We'll get back to that later. I want to focus on the game now, because we actually have got a lot of these aforementioned Confrère building up. It's not looking that big on the numbers right now at 3, but you can kind of see how this escalates to ridiculous degrees. Like, I'm kind of curious, because also there are ways you get kind of AoE healing bonuses later on in the game, right? So I can imagine almost some sort of pseudo chivalry French gameplay when you get into Castle Age.
Yeah, and it does resemble very slightly the French gameplay of that feudal knight, but it's definitely something we wanted to capture here. We're knights, right? It's the Knights Templar, right?
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of their unique units that you can grab on your way as you play are knights of mounted knights or dismounted knights, being man-at-arms styles in this game, right? So very interesting stuff as the Knights Chevalier, the Chevalier Confrère running around. It's awesome.
I mean, it's pretty cool to see, because, like, they don't look that threatening with 14 sword damage, but in fairness, I mean, they're pretty reasonably priced. They've got a kind of weird price, actually, I've got to say. Why are they 166?
Well, that's because the French, the Kingdom of France Alliance, via the Commandery, gives you a 5% gold discount on all gold costs to military units, right? So it's 80 gold being brought down by 4 there, which is fun, Little discount, so it immediately synergizes with your starting unit. You can get a few more knights out, and they're just that little bit cheaper. And it is a pretty cheap, like, early-ish knight. It's kind of in the mix of, it's in the realm of Sofa to Keshik, right? Which, as all the feudal knight enjoyers will know, are pretty potent. So the unit is quite fun to use.
Now, two important units. We've got a really cool one coming out on the other side. Philippe, he is going to be leaning into the Yeoman. Expect this to get upgraded, because the Yeoman, we've seen it previewed everywhere. People have kind of theory crafted. I hope I'm going to see it in this game. I got to say, the synchronized shot is sick. It actually may be one of my favorite abilities in AoE4.
Yeah, and it's certainly mine. I'm super happy with how this ability turned out. It's just super fun. Obviously, it scales with each yeoman casting the ability, right? Because each yeoman is individually contributing their own arrows as you use it. So if you use it with a big group, you can just deal massive damage in this small area, or you can try and like spook your opponent by casting it with just a few, or you could try and do the synchronized shot in a bunch of other ways, and all these different ways to use it. And it's a skill shot, which really feels fun. There's a lot of ways in which we wanted this DLC to be very approachable. We wanted the saves to be fun to play, easy to play. But, you got to have some skill shots in there to be really exciting, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's skill expression, right? It's what I've been praising and liking with some of the newer civs is we already have a very macro-heavy RTS. I like this idea of having more ways to express yourself with micro, right? And you kind of get small ways with Earlsguard as well, because they have got these dagger throws. Not going to see him here because they're too close. It is kind of insane. They're 6.5 tower range. These guys clearly work out. You looked buff in the opening splash, but I think these guys have more muscle than all the Knights Templar. Throwing a dagger 6.5 tower range is equivocal to more than a javelin, actually.
Yeah, Nero's Guard. Yeah, it's a little dagger, just tossing it easily. But yeah, it's a really fun ability as well, especially once you get that upgrade. The functionality actually changes a bit, and it's no longer a homing dagger. You throw two daggers that kind of spread out, and then they have a little bit of splash damage as they like ricochet and deal damage to. They like pierce through, armor and flesh, and it's just one of those really crazy things where you kind of get like a little mangonel shot as your Earl's Guards like preamble to the fight. It's really crazy when you get a lot of those cooking up too.
All right, like I gotta ask, do you ever just take inspiration from Dota 2? Like maybe it's my brain, but I know you love Dota 2 as well, because we talked about like the Legion Commander snowball thing. I hope we see it this game, but what you just described there just kind of reminds me of Luna's Glaives, where she just bounces between targets.
I mean, inspiration for game design can come from anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like it can be anything. A lot of the times for these DLCs, it's generally history first. So we'll open up like the as I like to say, we have these like skybox. Sorry, what's it called? Just a bunch of files on our servers where we just have tons of history books, just of really crazy niche history books about military history, about economic history, medieval history, all of it in just like, and it's crazy. It's crazy to read through this stuff, and we generally draw inspiration from there. So sometimes the inspiration could be rather niche, and other times it's like major trends and things that happened, like that people are knowing about in pop culture that we try to pull in as well, because that's also fun. So it's kind of a blend of that, and then for the actual gameplay, it's all sorts of stuff, right? I mean, we're all gamers on the team, so stuff can come from anywhere, but a good idea, is a good idea.
I love that. It's I was teasing you a little bit, like maybe the custom civs that are being modded, are they going to be coming in some way? Like taking inspiration there. So I know you guys like you play a lot of the game, right? So you're paying attention to a lot of things happening. But it's cool to hear like you look for that balance. This historically viable, but obviously you need to gamify it, right? You can't just be like the classic one is when people want realistic games, and I always say you don't want a realistic game because a realistic game is like, oh no, I haven't been to the bathroom in 8 hours, right? Like in a survival game. That's not fun. So you kind of have to find the mid ground of what's believable, but also what's enjoyable. Oh,
okay. Some crazy moments. Yeah, you mentioned the custom civs there, and they're really, really cool. I'm really impressed by what the modding team has been able to do and put together. It's really, really awesome to see that. And yeah, we have poked around. We have looked at those a little bit. Not going to say yes or no to if inspiration is drawn, because generally it's like a bigger process than just like you sit down, you write down an idea, and that's the end result, right? So it's generally not that simple, but it is really, really cool to see. And yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to see the gameplay really coming together here.
So I'm going to shame you a little bit on this because I said it to you the other day. This feels like a very defensively oriented DLC. Both of these civs gravitate around the idea of like castles a lot. We mentioned the buffed up damage by having the extra castles for the House of Lancaster. But also there's this. We just saw it dropped on the north side. Matthew has finally gone for a fortress. This feels like it is at the core of the Knights Templar identity. We mentioned a little bit for the landmark, but it does so many different things on top of that.
Yeah, we really wanted the fortress to be like central to the gameplay in the sense that like throughout history and in the Levant, like I think it was literally hundreds of castles that the Franks built throughout the Crusades. Just hundreds of from small to really, really large fortresses, and the Templars were a huge part of that process. And yeah, we wanted to make sure that was there, and it was interesting. Yeah, we have the economic element of getting more pilgrims. There's the localized buff of desert citadels, which can be upgraded. There's the economic buff of treasure towers, right? And of course, my favorite, the trebuchet emplacement, which in Imperial Age you can put that massive trebuchet right on top of the building, and it kind of can serve as like a forward sieging location.
Oh, it's epic.
So yeah, it can do quite a lot.
Yeah, it's epic, but at the same time, I'm just getting flashbacks to when Mongol cannon outposts were a big problem, and I think these are going to be even more painful to deal with. But we've got a painful fight here. Philippe, this isn't your base, buddy. All right, we get the synchronized shot coming out. That was sick, so it does a little AoE splash damage. The problem is he just used it against mass heavy cavalry. The good news, however, Philippe, is he has so many spearmen here. And this is one of the world things about the Chevalier, right? As you start to lose them, you almost just feel like your health pool is disintegrating at a much faster pace because you're losing that bonus health as well. We are going to get Matthew setting up another defensive fortress, so it looks like the dive is going to fail for Philippe. But
overall, is it me, or does it feel like Philippe really wanted to show off the synchronized shot, but he may have chosen the worst unit to do it against here with the mass cavalry?
Yeah, synchronized shot, it does somewhat match the damage output of a normal archer, so it does do extra damage to, you know, the light melee infantry, so the spearmen, so it would really do well against them. It's very solid against low armored units, so enemy backline, so enemy archers, enemy crossbows. It's quite good against that. Of course, if you have a lot of ranged armor, it's going to be pretty easy to ignore, but, you know, when you get a big, massive, elite yeoman, it can be still a lot of damage at the right time in the right place against any target.
Now, I assume there must be some historical reference to Genoesian people having a lot of protein in their diet, because these guys are basically gilded crossbowmen, although we did just see them die quite quickly. Quite interesting. How do you feel like the crossbow element plays in Knights Templar? Because I played a little bit of Civ, and it feels like unless you go a very specific route, it's almost like the game is encouraging you to be a melee mosh pit, right? Like the classic, I have knights, I have teutonics, I have like these chevalier. It feels like there's definitely a lot of melee focus. Is that part of why, for example, the fortresses have that range buff? Is to try and encourage a bit more range play in what would otherwise be a melee heavy Civ?
Well, yeah, Knights Templar being melee heavy is definitely a core part of their design. They have cheaper siege, so they can also get some mangonels and springalds out nicely. They also, it's a little bit cheaper there. And yeah, if you're in range of a fortress defensively, you can take a nice fight with additional range on your crossbows and archers. Notably, they don't have access to any gunpowder, right? So they don't have the Carrack, they don't have hand cannons, they don't have bombards or culverins, if you will. So yeah, they really have to make do of the crossbow in the late game as their kind of like backline damage unit, or they can mix in the Genoese crossbow if they want.
So looks like we are going to have a little bit of a reset after the big clash. It's going to be a bit difficult to get in, but I like that keeping the pressure. I'm a little bit gutted because it feels like we might not see Imperial at this pacing. One thing we did talk about off stream that I think is interesting to highlight is I think Knights Templar, the thing I said to you is they might end up in some ways being the most polarizing Civ for Age of Empires 4 players because it's very different to what we've seen before. We mentioned the capacity AoE2, but also just the history of new Civs coming out and people wanting to rush Castle or rush Imperial Age. This feels like it might be the hardest Civ in the game to rush Ages with because of the sacrifice of villager production.
Yeah, and it's definitely an interesting trade-off, right? And it's not just that, right? A traditional Civ, when they build a landmark, there's usually a pretty notable power spike once you complete that landmark. Sometimes it's less noticeable, sometimes it's economic and creeping. Oh, and we have a lot going on. Yeah, sometimes it's like a big power spike, but Knights Templar never have that like instant massive power spike unless you're about to fight with a bunch of units that get buffed, right? Yeah. By the passive element. So generally speaking, Knights Templar have been sort of balanced in a very different way than traditional Civs, right? So they're not getting guaranteed RPM from landmarks, but instead, you know, their economy has slightly more or less, like their scaling is just very different. And we're really excited to see how that plays out and see how players engage with it. And of course, we'll be balancing the Civ over time to make sure that that is both unique and fun to play with and against.
I'm waiting for a synchronized shot time. Whoop! There we go. Nice snipe there. Almost gets the springboard. But yeah, I thought he'd maybe save that for the crossbowman. That's what will be most effective. But looks like we got a good push coming in from Philippe. Matthew is trying to basically play the long con here. The pilgrimages are going pretty hardcore. Like at this stage, it looks like one of those midday outings for people from an old people's home.
Yeah, we really wanted to capture that sense of them kind of walking as a group and like going through like a dangerous land, so you can see them turning their heads and checking around for danger. Are there any? Have
one of us been eaten yet? Are we safe here? Yes.
Yeah, we all here. Yeah. And so they have that like kind of the iconic. I actually saw some threads about people noting the iconic pilgrim staff. That's absolutely something we wanted to capture with their look visually. And they're just making their way to the sacred site. And when you get there safely, you get a little bit of gold. It's a very simple mechanic to use because it's passive. You don't have to like micro them a ton. But yeah, it's really fun, and you get that visual economy that like from a design perspective was something we really wanted to capture. Like you can see the Knights Templar economy and uniqueness at work here.
That's something I really want to give praise to, actually, is, you know, we talked in person at Rebel Warlord when we were working together, right? And one thing I remember saying when we were watching AoE 2 is like, man, I love the audio cues, and I love the almost exaggerated nature of their attacks. It feels like with these new civs, there's been an effort to amplify the impact of any attack. We saw it with like the Yeoman, for example. That's just
undeniable, hard to ignore. But I've noticed that with kind of the interactions with things like the Hospitalier, which we'll see a little bit later, and even things like the simple charges of like the Hovelar, which are now coming out. Was that like a really big priority for you moving into this? Is like, I want anything these units do to feel like you can see they're doing it.
Yeah, and that's something we're always working on Age of Empires 4. And you actually looking at it here, I don't know if you can tell, it's a little subtle, but the Horseman animation and several other animations have actually been updated.
Oh.
So you're seeing it right here. The Horseman's attack is actually now a little more like the speed
More
is more
thrusty,
in the
right?
front.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, so that's one of those things where we really wanted to make it more visual when the damage is going to come through. And we also wanted to make sure that it's really ironic timing that this just happened on screen as you asked that question. I just want to comment on that. But yeah, you'll see that it's a little more aggressive, a little easier to read. We've also updated the hand cannoneer and crossbowman reload animations so that we're getting a little more of it. So yeah, there's been a couple visual updates in this patch as well. That's going out for free to everybody, so it's not just the Templar horsemen, which we're seeing on screen as they get taken down by a fast group of spearmen here from Felipe.
Spears and the new Hovelar, which is a cheaper version of the Horseman. I love the identities of these as well. You can it kind of feels like they're a little bit cheaper than the Horseman, right? From the way they look and the weapons they wield. But once again, just like a little bit of praise there. I've been enjoying these. It's basically more... It kind of feels like maybe there's some inspiration was taken from the Malian Warrior Scout spam of this whole idea of let's get something super cheap out that you can bulk up fast.
Yeah, and they're really, really cheap at just 90 resources. They do cost gold for a horseman, so gameplay-wise, that is one of the sacrifices you're making. In a late game, you're going to need to make sure you have gold income to keep spamming these. But yeah, the 90 resource horseman was something we were really, really excited about, and you can get a lot of them. If you get the other landmark that Felipe didn't show here, you can make them train really quick and get a lot of charge damage. They actually have really high ranged armor, so... If you clicked on one, you'd see that the ranged armor is really, really high on these guys. 4 for a vet unit is nice, and they have 3 in feudal age, right? So it's quite potent, and we're going to get a big fight here under the fortress. Ooh, the treasure towers as well.
Oh, the extra health, but
Nice
there's
shot.
the big flurry.
Oh.
It's the center of the crossbowman. What was that, about 9, 10 going down straight away? This is the flurry powered. And the cool thing is, if you want to get micro-elegant about this, you've got this many yeomen, you can split it into 2 shots. Like, that's something that I've been dabbling with a little bit on the side. It's very interesting trying to figure out the maths in the moment to maximize this damage, because it's such a valuable ability. But another great siege down, going to be taking out the fortress. I think Philippe has realized that maybe we shouldn't let Matthew go on any more pilgrims. This is getting a bit ridiculous. This man has so much gold, he could open up his own bank.
Yeah, exactly. Each fortress contributes another pilgrim to each pilgrimage, which spawns on a timer, right? So basically, each fortress has guaranteed gold per minute as long as the pilgrims are making it safely to a sacred site, right? So taking down a Templar fortress is just as good as building one in the first place.
Another synchronized
Not
shot.
quite enough there.
Yeah, killing the siege is a little bit difficult, those things I've noticed. Speaking of siege, it did exist. Kind of, barely. But we do have more keeps coming up. Reminder that this is going to keep buffing up damage of certain units, so very powerful if he starts leaning into them. But kind of feels like he's got Matthew in a little bit of a headlock here. We are seeing more of these Yanoi's crossbowmen. Not really sure if they're worth it here. It kind of feels like it's a very deceptive unit, right? Because the thing I have to remember now with these crossbowmen is they get bonus against all melee infantry. So technically, like, it's kind of been a meme for a while that crossbows can beat spears if you play like Arbitrier. Is this meant to be the new replacement for the Arbitrier runs?
We'll see. I mean, you never know. The unit's role, it's a little bit different from the crossbow, right? The crossbow going to bring in that punch against knights and man-at-arms, whereas against like a spearman front or some other melee infantry of various civs have different ones, Landsknechts, man-at-arms, right? Anything you can think of. Yeah, they're going to be packing a big punch, especially around the fortress with that extra range. They can be very, very hard to displace from their position. They're a very expensive crossbow as well, so they're just their DPS as a raw per pop unit is also quite high.
So one thing I was thinking of actually, because we talked about it a little bit earlier, you hit onto it, is this whole idea of, like, we've seen these new horseman updates. There's going to be coming to the OG Civs as well. Are you guys keeping a close eye on the older Civs? I know when you go deep into a game cycle, we're 4 years in Age of Empires 4 now. There is a concern that new Civs kind of have to be buffed up for people to be interested, and they've introduced new mechanics, and it can leave the OG civs in the dust. So you guys kind of being very conscious of that, and is there plans to maybe explore, shall we say, spring cleaning updates where you essentially bring old civs up to par? Because I feel like so far you guys have done a good job of it, but it feels inevitable as the game goes on that the old civs begin to look a bit too basic.
Well, yeah, no, definitely agree with the potential for that. I would like to say, I would like to hope we're doing a good job with that.
Yeah.
As we do with every free update, we try to make sure that, you know, some civs are getting something here and there. Generally, it's identifying a weakness or an underused unit. Like, if there's an element of a civ that just never gets used, we're trying to buff that. In terms of new additions, you know, there are some additions in this free update to the HRE specifically, so they're getting a little bit of love. They're getting a new tech, a new unit, so we're really excited to see how that plays out. I think we're gonna see a little bit of that unit in our next game. Oh, the Teutonic Knight!
They're here. Okay, so this is the Legion Commander thing that we talked about earlier. So I love this. Battle Glory. It gains health and damage for every kill it gets. So
Yeah.
have you been snooping in on my community games? I think we done something stupid last year where there's an option in a mod where basically when your unit kills things, it levels up. And I think we had a game where someone got a Gilded Men-at-Arms to like 1400 HP.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's certainly possible here. There is no limit on this. Of course, this is one of the slowest like human units in the game outside of Siege, right? It's extremely slow, but very intimidating, right? The armor aura means that, you know, your nearby ranged units and stuff, we're just going to shred through enemy front lines. This unit itself has a ton of HP and it can keep stacking, so if you're able to find a way to, you know, heal it and stuff, we wanted to keep some potential for some crazy stuff to happen against, you know, AI if you keep a group of them alive, or, you know, maybe there's opportunities in multiplayer to get some really crazy stats going.
I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I think you just like feed one of them to be 1000 plus HP, and then you have a permanent debuff aura they can't get rid of. But we do have the Berkshire. Yep. Yeah, I wanted him to go Wingard. We don't get to see them, but we do get to see a sick synchronized shot in there. Hits a bunch of the Genoese, gets them low, kills one of the siege weapons. It kind of feels like he's brute forcing his way through this fight. And these
Teutonic Knights,
oh my god.
There's a ton of the crossbows. The Teutonic Knights, there's so many of them on the front line there.
Hold on.
From Matt.
Look at the health increase. They've already killed so many.
There's a lot going on.
This is ridiculous. 52 plus HP already with elite attacks coming through. They're getting super beefy. I think Philippe, I mean, he's got one more synchronized shot, but I feel like he has to micro this perfectly to hit that back line, because that's going to be the killer at this rate.
Oh, a single yeoman used synchronized shot there. Oh, but there's the rest. A little misfire there at the start. You see a little bit of damage, but you see these Teutonic Knights are just so crazy. They've essentially full upgrades here, I believe, close to, if not full upgrades. You can see that on the top right.
They are ridiculous.
Yeah, so insane. Yeah.
Got 380 on one of them, 356, 362. It's just, and you have to keep in mind, there'll always be this tanky when you start seeing them because there's an Imperial Age unit. So Philippe, I don't know, I think he tried to throw something cool here with the Yeoman, but undeniable against Knights Templar, all this heavy armor, he's not able to do enough there.
Yeah, when you're playing against Knights Templar, my biggest recommendation is you're going to need to find a way, look at that horseman, you're going to need to find a way to bring crossbows into the field at some point, right? Or something that can really pack a punch against those really strong melee units.
One set, let me switch us over, because I did have a scene. I literally just set it up, and now I've got way too many scenes. Oh my god, I need to organize my stuff a bit better. Was it Cam? There we go. I just had a weird name on it. We are back! Look at us! Oh, wait. Oh, no, dude, I'm the losing head. So...
Oh, yeah, this is the winning set.
There you go. Yeah, you're too stacked.
Oh,
I can't deal with it. So,
this guy right here.
One thing I wanted to hit on, actually, before we hop into our next game, because the next game is going to be a fun one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about the format change, because I think, you know, we have to address the elephant in the room. Some people's response to the DLC was like, why are we getting so little this time? And my takeaway, and I've defended you guys on this, it feels as if there's a change in the way that you approach DLC. Because with that DLC, I would say you guys gave way too much value. Like, it was insane. It was insanely cheap. You guys done a phenomenal job of Sons Ascend. But it almost feels like, would you agree you guys are moving away from a big content drop cycle to more of a seasonal cycle?
We'll see. I think the team is always just working on good content, and we're always just trying to get like the best stuff we can to you guys. And yeah, I'm excited to see what's coming. The next DLC is already looking quite cool. Relic is cooking away, and I'm excited to now that this DLC is kind of done. I'm excited to join in the efforts there, and we're gonna all work together to make sure that this next DLC is really awesome.
That's hype to hear. I mean, 10 new maps as well is already an incredible addition. I think people glaze over that. And we do also have some cool stuff coming up. We are going to feature the first ever free-for-all on Knights of Cross Rose, and it has got some interesting points of interest, which we're going to dive into in just a second. Winston, when am I getting capture age for free-for-alls? Okay, he's not going to tell me. All right, guys, welcome back to our second game for this video. It's the first free-for-all ever, and I don't know how this guy got in the lobby. Like, Winston, is this guy actually the appropriate rank to be a part of this?
No, it was a fun game. It was a fun game. It was a good time. It was a good
For
time.
some of us. Okay.
For some of us.
All
sure.
I'm going to say is, in my defense, and without giving away too much, this was like four people being stacked like a waffle, but the waffle wasn't actually part of the waffle. It all makes sense as things go on. This was also an awkward start. So we're going to talk about these points of interest a little bit because this has me hyped. I love that you guys have done this. I know that historically AoE4 is a very defensive RTS, we can agree. But I like that you're doing things to get people out on the map because we are playing a mega random map here, which features the most points of interest. But some of the new maps will have some of these, such as ones that resource gen and ones like this that simply give you an outpost, which we're going to see me capture after Mike feared my biceps and gave me control.
Exactly. So the points of interest, what are they? What are we looking at here? So I can give a little breakdown here because I think there's going to be a lot of people who are like, what are these? So this is coming to the update. We're adding a new system to some maps. Not all maps will be getting this. I believe at the start it's 4 or 5 maps, don't quote me on that, which have these to some capacity. This is a land mega random. So of course we wanted to embrace the chaos, as this is oftentimes a nomad free-for-all map. It's one of those fun maps. So we just put as many as we could on here. So there are 5 points of interest that we've added to the game, and on land mega random, this map, you can spawn any of them, and there's a lot of them, right? So some of the other maps with them are going to feature them a lot more intentionally and with care from the map designer. But here it's just like kind of a chaotic element. So we have the wolf den, which it doesn't spawn them at the start. It waits a couple minutes. It's a grace period, especially important for these nomad modes. That's my TC up and to the right. It does become a bit of a problem later that I can't send a build through there because let me tell you about those wolves, KP. The wolves that spawn from there are stronger, they're smarter, they're faster, they're angrier.
Oh, I experienced that.
So you really have to what is going on over here?
Okay, so this is what you didn't have eyeballs on. Drongo walked over and said, it's some along the lines of like, wrong neighborhood, bro. And I thought I was being like hazed. So I'm reasonable about this. I walk my king down and I check where he came from. I'm like, no, there's nothing here. He's just griefing me. He's lying to me. So I just went back to building. And this is the beginning of my hellhole. So we've got Drongo to the south side of me. We've got Mike to the north. I don't know why Philippe decided to be a Bastards in this, but he's part of the experience as well. So, Winston, you have the freest game in a 5-person free-for-all I think you could have asked for.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes, right? But yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting thing. I just love these points of interest. So you can see them kind of called out on the mini-map as well. So you can see all the little white tents, right? And each of these has a different effect. Not each of them individually, but each one that you see has a different effect. You see the Forgotten Ruin. That's my personal favorite. So you need to garrison a villager inside, and it will give you stone per minute as it's in there, right? And then after 6 minutes, you just get a relic.
That's crazy.
And your villager is freed.
I didn't even see this one. This one's new to me as well. That's very unique. I really hope that this ends up being a positive excursion and we get more of these type of things. Like I said, I'm a really big fan of this. I think Sacred Sites are a great addition to Age of Empires for this whole idea of come out your base, let's play the game. And these almost feel like they're trying to amplify that idea that, if someone wants to camp in their base, fine, but there should be something I can do on the map in the meantime.
Yeah, and you can see that in action right there, the merchant camp that Pink has, Mike. right? It's right there. Yeah, that is just generating resources. And there's actually a use case for this on Enlightened Horizon, which has quickly become one of my favorite maps as well. I know I've said that about several of the maps we've seen so far, but I have a lot of favorite maps, okay? Yeah, and so that merchant camp is nice. It just gives you a little trickle of resources. So that one's a little more basic, but yeah, there's all different kinds of points of interest, and it's really fun. It's really, really interesting. And yeah, in terms of where we're at now, so we wanted to kind of not start small, like there's 5 of them and we put them on a bunch of maps, but we kind of wanted to gauge the feedback before we just put them on every map. So I don't think in any case we're going to put them on every single map, but it's definitely something we look forward to expanding on. The patch notes when they release, you'll see kind of a breakdown of what these do, and like how the capture system works, because it's a little different. So like any unit can capture a point of interest, but the more units you have, the faster it'll go. So if you late game, once you have like 30, 40 units like walking around, you don't have to sit around for a long time. But there's kind of an interesting mini game in the early game. Like, does your scout want to sit there for 60 seconds, or does your scout want to keep gathering sheep? So
Exactly.
there's even kind of like a decision to have behind like even your scouting patterns when you see one of these, and how it might impact your build order or how you interact with your opponent. And yeah, in future updates, it is something we look to expand on. I'm not going to make any promises, but each season we might try and add another POI or two. Not confirmed. Not going to lock us in on that one, but it is something I am very excited about. Making sure we're seeing the feedback on, and just let us know how you guys feel about it. Everybody watching this, I'm really curious to see how it pans out, because like you said, it kind of brings the map to life visually, and it kind of it's another tool that the map makers can apply to their map making to just give us more creative maps in the future. Very excited for it, and
I'm
maps
also
with Land Mega Random are super fun.
yeah, I'm curious to see if the Ronins are gonna come to play. You need to be capturing these right now.
I don't want to give you any spoilers,
I
but I have a lot of
nice.
them around my base.
I know it.
There's
I'm like, are
3
you
around
Japan?
there's one north too. There's one north of me too. So I'm just letting you know.
The
The Ronins might be irrelevant.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So basically, the way this works is that you can hold them and then recruit them. So it's stockpiles, right?
Yes. So it's sort of like the Kremlin to a degree, but keep in mind the Ronin stockpile at each lost Ronin point of interest, that is distinct to that point of interest. So if your opponent comes through and takes it back, they can and you didn't spend the tickets, they can have it. So whoever spends it, right?
You've just got all these guys just chilling around like the fire camp. They're like, well, if you won't hire us, like, anyone got coin around here? Oh,
yeah, that's exactly it. He's definitely lost, though, right? It depends on the biome, I guess, and the map. But the Ronin can be found in very strange places. But yeah, it's definitely fun.
I'm
Excited
looking
see
forward
how
to
it plays
seeing
out
him
once
in
it comes out into the
the.
game.
I was going to say, I'm looking forward to seeing the snow biome. A little bit confused there. Like, why am I in Siberia? What happened? But yeah, I should probably start explaining what's happened down here. So I wrecked Drongo's world because he got greedy with Lancaster Castle. This is the highlight of my game. Flexing on him right now. I'm not having a good time, Winston.
Looks like a little tight in there. Oh, but you're going hospitality? Is that you?
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I said I'm going to heal the world. I think I actually typed it in the chat at the time. My goal here was to try and just get 100 Hospitalia and just have these vibing dudes sitting there healing each other throughout everything, right? I was spreading love, Winston, and I'm also happy because this means that people get to see those exaggerated animations that I was talking about. Because honestly, I think the Hospitalier animation going into healing might be my favorite animation of the expansion so far. I'll let people.
Oh
see.
yeah, where they take out the staff.
Don't ruin it for
that's
them. Yeah, no, like,
okay, I won't ruin it. I won't ruin it. Okay.
They're too cool. You gotta let them show themselves off. We can't do them justice.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we'll wait.
I peed in here, by the way, and I almost had a heart attack. I thought Mike was gonna kill me when I'm dealing with Drongo. I didn't even know Philippe was here. Like, look at my vision. This is my experience in my game. It's horrible. But something.
Well, at least have that outpost. Yeah,
True.
The abandoned outpost giving you some vision.
We're
Not
sharing
quite
outposts.
catching what you need to.
So,
Oh,
like,
yeah.
the interesting thing here, by the way, is when we played this, we were just talking in the 1v1 about how you can build fortresses to be landmarks. I didn't know about that in this. So, I pretty much was sitting here, getting ready to mold, like... So I'm basically a worse Abbasids than free-for-alls. Like, they kill my TC and I die. I so wish I'd known. I was gonna... If I'd known, I would have went over here. I would have lived in the mountains as a hermit, you know?
Yeah, just putting a single fortress in a corner. That's one of the interesting use cases for them, right? Because it's not like a landmark in the traditional sense. So it can be fully destroyed, right? The fortresses
Yeah.
for Templars, right? That's what we're talking about. Is you can build a fortress as the Knights Templar. It's their unique keep, and it counts as a landmark for the enemy's purpose of defeating you in a landmark style, right? So you can hide them all around the map. You can, and there's no real cap to it. I mean, there's the functional cap of how much stone is there on the map, right? But yeah, being able to just like hide a bunch of fortresses around the map is one of the kind of unique twists that you can have for these Nomad Dominion game modes.
Now, we talk about game modes. I'm glad you done that, because I want to talk a little bit about that. We've seen the chart the course game mode that got slipped into the game. Are you guys exploring more kind of GMs? Because I know, like personally for you, there was kind of maybe a burnout after like Empire Wars was maybe not the reception expected. But I think there's a lot of merit towards coming up with these quirky, very different game modes.
He's
What?
healing on the screen. He healed.
Oh yeah, you did. Damn. Okay, we'll see him again. Don't worry, because he needs a friend to heal him now. Like, this is my strategy, right? Because if no one dies, you've achieved world peace. I think that's how it works. So you ready?
Yeah, infinite population. Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a bad thing, so we're gonna get hungry. But here we go. Yeah, yep. It's just like, I have a sword, bro. You want to fight? You want to fight? Ready? Ready? And boom.
So he swaps out the shield for this big monk staff.
Did
and
you
then he heals by holding it over his head. It's really cool.
Did you model him after Gandalf? Like, I'm just thinking about this now that I'm zoomed in. It's full Gandalf, you shall not pass vibes.
A little bit. I mean, now that you mention it, not intentional, but yeah, the Hospitaller, you know, they historically wore that black cloak with the hood, so there's something. And the wolves are getting involved. Oh man, it is such a cluster over here. So much is happening. A yeoman coming over to get involved. I see what you mean by having an interesting time with the chaos here unfolding.
But the important thing is I'm winning the wolf war, okay? So I'm doing two things for the world, Winston, right now. While
You can really see the stats. Oh my god.
It's like, you shall not pass to the afterlife. I'm going to heal you up. So a lot of things going on in this game. Great. We've got you just basically trying to gather 69 Lost Ronin. We've got Philippe. It's a bastard. We didn't talk about it. We've got Mike about to have a civil war over who should become king. We've got Drongo basically being the most economical gremlin I could imagine right now. He pretty much, when I scout this layout, I was like, is he just not going to actually like do anything but mana? And then there's just me, who is simultaneously trying to protect the world from a wolf apocalypse and make sure no one dies.
Yeah, these wolves are strong, as you're starting to see. And yeah, the wolf den, once you take it down, there is a reward. So being the one to burn it does definitely help you out. So we'll see if you're able to get that little gold, right? 150
It's
gold
important.
for being the one to burn it down.
That almost gets me 3 more Hospitalier. And that's all that
And
matters.
yeah, with the healing, this is really clever. You're able to fight this. There's 150 gold. You'll see a bunch do spawn, kind of in desperate defense, and that's explained in the tooltip. So if you ever want to learn exactly what's going on, but these wolves are mad.
Yeah, but they got baited.
Part of the chaos. Oh,
No. It was all part of the plan. No panic. No panic.
Very fun. Very fun. There you go.
So elsewhere, we got to talk about you, Winston, because you and Philippe. But I don't think Philippe looked like a normie tryhard. You kind of look like a normie tryhard though, because Drongo and Mike picked Lancaster, I picked Knights Templar, and you picked HRE. Why did you pick
trying
HRE?
something different. I'm trying something different in this game that we played.
What,
so
really?
there is
Rushing
something.
Imperial Age is something
So,
different?
I am trying to rush Imperial Age, but it's not into Swabia. It's because the Elsbach has been updated a little bit to match the new system for the Black Rider, which is a new unit coming free in the massive, or the big update alongside Knights of Cross and Rose, right? So we've got that, and yeah, the Black Rider, I do get a few of them out, so we can talk about it when it's there, but you definitely need keeps for that. We talked about keep counters, but yeah, you definitely need keeps in order to make the Black Rider. So that's my goal in this game here.
So you can see my goal is really being put into shambles. I'm assuming this is because I don't think Australians have free healthcare. So Drongo was deeply insulted by my idea here. He pretty much ruined it. And now I can't touch gold. So I'll be honest with you, in this game, I was melee brain. I was doing everything possible to resist building archers for some reason. I don't know why. So we'll see how that works out for me a little bit later in. But man, Drongo just came out of nowhere, just hiding in the corner of this yeoman. I love this unit. I actually really do. I think Longbows has a bad rep where for like low rank players, they hate it because it's like, how do I reach it? But Yeoman, it's still more range than the standard archer, but it's not like an insane amount more range. Right? It's a trade-off because instead, you actually get a pretty sick movement speed.
Yeah, and they don't have the same damage as the longbow, right? The longbow has extra range and damage at the cost of move speed, whereas the yeoman, yeah, they're getting the move speed and the range. So it's definitely a different style and feel to compared to the base English.
And they're not cheap, right?
Really
They're 45 food, 45 wood, I think.
Yeah,
So-
they are also 90 res, so they are a more expensive archer.
So Drongo at this stage, I think, saw how in shambles I was, or that I was a passive partaker. You know, except for
And
wolves,
I'm
I hate
seeing
those.
that army. You see my scout? I see that army.
Oh wait, wait, where are you?
To the right, to the right. Oh, the red.
Oh, you mean him? Yeah. Okay, yeah,
I
you
did
see that? Yeah,
I saw that and I was like, oh, some crazy stuff is going on over here.
The chat was kind of wild actually in game. Like, I'll be real, Drongo was out to get you. He took
I thought it
specific
was just
issue
a
of you.
bluff. But actually, we're fighting. Mike and I are actually currently fighting over a Felipe's king, to the right.
Oh yes, over here. Ah, there.
I was fighting. Okay, it's so long
I'm
in there,
sorry,
but yeah, we were
Philippe.
fighting over it.
We didn't highlight you dying. It's just
I really
felt
wanted it.
depressing to highlight him dying.
Mike just took him out. It was cold blood.
I swear, Lord of Lancasters are gonna surprise a lot of people because I tested these a little bit. So for those that don't know, the way it works is they have a health aura, and they stack with each other. So if you get one for free out of the Abbey of Kings, and then they're only 160 resources. So if you spam up to 4, it's like you got Elite Army Tactics health really early.
Yeah, it's a very strong, and it's on all nearby military units, right? So
Yeah.
it's an extremely potent bonus for your whole army. Now you do have to maintain that. It's kind of like, think about it like this. It's like a free tech that you get, but you have to like an additional technology, right?
Yes.
Like you're saying, like EAT, right? Elite Army Tactics, right? It's like that, but there's kind of the micro maintenance, and your opponent has counterplay in battle to try and snipe out the kings to make the rest of your army easier to fight. So there's kind of some like interesting trade-offs that you have with like how to handle it, if it's worth it to keep making them and not. Generally, I think it is, but it can be hard and they are expensive.
They're very chunky though. I think they have reasonable stats. Obviously, they're just very slow is the trade-off. But I kind of like this. People weren't sure what to expect when they saw like the king. I think a lot of people were worried they're maybe getting the full hero treatment. I like this though. I feel like we've kept Jean's unique identity, and we're like, okay, but Jean introduced some interesting ideas. How do we expand that in a meaningful way? Hold on a sec. I think you're safe, Frank. You look pretty safe to me. No, you're fine. Like,
I don't want to talk about it. Look away.
no, it's like it's fine.
I chose to stick it.
No,
I
no,
chose to
it's
stick
fine because you've got textile. Oh no. You don't have textiles?
No, I definitely got demolished here. So I had just scouted Drongo's army in, like, killing Mike. So I thought I had time and space to build that. Boy, was I wrong. He did beeline for me. And you can see I was setting up the ranges to work with the Elsbach to get the Black Riders out, but it was not enough. It was not enough. And so then I have to build it elsewhere, and now look where I built it. Oh no, this was a disaster.
Oh god. Yeah. Well, at least
This was a total disaster.
this wall is a please don't hurt me wall. Like,
My entire economy is currently building the Elsbach.
Frank, please. Like not like
But
this.
it's okay. We're good. We're good. The Elsbach, I think, goes up here, right?
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. This time you're fine. Drongo's just overkilling villages, so I think you're fine. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Yeah,
All
we
right,
played this.
great.
What was its last night? So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I definitely.
Wait.
definitely
Are you
feel the
about
pain,
to
though.
complain that it was late for you, like with that last night?
No. I'm saying it was painful that moment.
Okay.
It's still fresh in my mind.
Got you.
Watching that back was kind of difficult. So my free space. Look at my pop. Oh no.
But that's plenty of pop space now for Black Riders.
For the Black Riders.
Boom.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a limit to how many Black Riders you can build. It's based on how many keeps you have. Each keep contributing more and more Black Rider space. And they're kind of like a super unit. They're a mounted hand cannoneer. And so you can see them popping out there if you want to click on one. So that's
I
the
love
Black
this.
Rider.
You
They have
even kind of
captured the vibe that I was imagining. Because like when I heard about this unit, my thought was Cossacks Dragoons. I don't know if you've seen those before. They're a very infamous unit from that game. I think you captured that perfectly, and I think that's a good thing. Like, these look sick.
Yeah, the art team did a really, really good job capturing this for sure. And they have this unique Caracol ability, based on literally the history of what the Black Riders did, kind of in Eastern Europe at the time, was to
Kill wolves.
what this does is it kind of makes them a Mangudai, but they can't shoot behind them. So it's
Oh.
like they get a cone where they can shoot in front of them while moving, for a duration. So it's a timed ability, but it's very, very useful. And it can be really good for running enemies down, but it's not great for kiting. So there's kind of some good use cases, but some other cases where you're better off just waiting for the right moment.
No, but this is absolutely fine because Drongo mostly has Yeoman, so you can just activate it and run straight out.
Yeah, and these are armored, like, gunpowder, right? So they have 4/4 armor here, so they are quite good against these low damage units that are on the screen, or that are just north, right? But we'll see. It's a lot.
Yeah, you
There's
still
some
have to deal with the
crazy
Rams.
stuff
Like, this is... This does not look good right now.
happening. No, I'm 50 pop, no food. There you go.
I'm not sure whose position I prefer here, yours or mine. I mean, I have
But
this
I'm coming
very
up with a
thin
cunning
area.
plan. Actually, if you notice, I just hired all the Ronin in the south,
I was waiting for it.
and
Wait.
I'm coming over to the north, and I just grabbed the one from
Oh,
him.
yes! Here we
And we're
go.
getting more Ronin. And so because we hadn't been using the Ronin this whole time, there's just so many available.
Oh
to
my
hire.
god, what is that movement speed? What? 1.51. All right. I think I know the buff that Japan as a Civ now needs.
They need to find the lost Ronin. Well, it's fast in this case because of HRE too.
Yeah,
HRE
I was
is the faster
wondering.
infantry.
So that's interesting. So the Ronins get the unique techs of the Civ that they're hired by.
Some unique bonuses, not all apply.
Okay.
For example, not the like the weapon swaps for the HRE. Unique techs at the barracks, for
Gotcha.
example. Those won't apply here. They're gonna always
But
carry
like,
the-
for example,
Oh, there's Paracol in action.
yo. Okay, this looks really cool. And they get the glow when they're doing it, so you know it's happening, right? Yeah. Okay, that's cool. I like that. So I think this was the point in the game. Yeah, I came by with the scouts, and I only saw this. And so from my POV, I was like, whoa, don't mess with Frank. And I just went back home.
Yeah, I had just gotten completely demolished, so it's gonna take me a while to get back on my feet here. But at least I have this big mass of samurai, or the Ronin, sorry. So I'm excited for that unit to be useful.
And now you just need to kill all the wolves, and then you can afford even more Ronins. It's genius.
And I have HRE relics, so I'm gonna get a lot of Ronin. I think that's the plan. That was my game plan, at least at the time.
Now all you need is someone willing to buy you time.
I need a hero, one could say.
And I've got you covered, buddy. We even went for heavy spearmen here. These look really cool.
Yeah.
I like this because we didn't get to see this in the Knights Templar game. That's why I wanted to explore it. Is this the first spearman that costs gold? I think it is.
I'm thinking. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah, and we've experimented with spearmen being tankier already, but we really wanted to lean into an armored, heavy, big spearman. This distinguishes it from the classic spearman that you still have access to, right? So you're not replacing your spearman with a gold costing spearman, right? You have access to both spearmen. So part of the design goal and challenge of this Civ is to make sure that there's kind of use cases for both the basic units, but also any unit you could upgrade, right? So yeah, that's one of the interesting things here. And the shield on the back is mostly there for like visual, like you could really tell that it's the armored spearman.
Yeah, like what you done with the Genosian crossbowmen. The whole idea is like you just look
Yeah.
and know. I like that. It's really important. I always call it. It's almost like you're trying to lean towards the silhouette test. I don't know if you know that from Team Fortress 2. It's
Oh
probably-
yeah, the silhouette test is very important for units in an RTS as well. It's somewhat less important, and we have certain things that we do rely on more than others. For example, the weapon is a very large element of the silhouette that we make sure. We also use color palette and color patterns. Yeah, like there's a lot of different ways that you can make sure and ensure that units are different. It can be tricky in a 3D space, right, to have the unit from all angles look different, so there's definitely times where it's better than other times, but yeah,
This
I think we
fight-
did pretty well.
was horrible, by the way. Like, it took so long to kill things, and I didn't process it in the moment, but it genuinely is that 5% health.
Yeah, you need to find a way to deal with the Lords of Lancaster. The Abbey of Kings, you know, is no joke for Lancaster.
No, and the tricky thing for me in this game, so like I know people are like, why are you building horsemen against men at arms, all these things. My gold didn't feel safe. Like anytime I'd walk out here, I was paranoid about this guy. And in fact, you'll see, like a little preview, it gets even worse for me soon. Oh, Drongo did go for the King's College. I love this. I was expecting something Royal Institute, like especially when the Civ was talked about, the like focus on arts and technology. But this has some crazy techs in it. I noticed straight away the Burgundian imports to get hand cannoneers early and get them cheaper. Military tactics, which just gives an overall damage boost to a lot of your troopers. There's a lot of cool techs, and I've yet to see it. I'm looking forward to seeing Warwolf trebuchets, which gives an extra 2 range to standard trebuchets.
Yeah, obviously inspired by the Warwolf Treb from the Siege of Stirling. We had to bring it. We had to have it in AoE4. It has to be there. It's an iconic element of English history, right? Is that Warwolf Treb? So yeah, it gets this gold trim as well, so there's a visual standout. But yeah, I really like the King's College and what it does. It gives you a global discount to all techs. That's why the tech costs here are a little funky. But all of your techs globally get a discount, and then you get access to these military techs. So that new unique landmark for House of Lancaster, definitely very potent and fun.
So this is why I said I couldn't do gold units, by the way. This.
Oh, that is Berkshire.
Yeah, and look at the nearest gold afterwards. Like, I never came back north after I saw your Black Riders. I was like, I don't want to make an enemy up there. So I'm pretty much playing the most budgeted Knights Templar you can imagine. I have no stone. I have no gold. So I can't build fortresses. I can't build gold units, which basically feels like I can't play Knights Templar. So I'm just doing the most scuff stuff possible. I did sneak out the stone here. I will show off the fortress for people shortly. It did feel epic, even when I was in a depressingly bad position in this game, because Mike is vibing right now. Free TC, multi-keep. He's loving everything.
Yeah, and he has a lot of Earl's Guard as well, right? So they're gonna get a lot of damage from all those keeps. It's gonna start to get really crazy, and that's just stacking on top. It improves the dagger throw, it improves everything. So it's really, really cool.
And he also
Did you perchance get a university in this game? I'm curious.
No, because like I don't have the gold. There's no point. Actually, I think I might have got. I think I sold to get biology on my horseman, and that was it. But one interesting thing here. Both of the English players around me went spears, but then to make matters worse, they've gone billmen. Like, I really should have just went archers in hindsight, but I think I got freaked out when I saw the yeoman, because, I mean, it's kind of like when you're up against longbows, right? Do you really want to build range units against longbows? No.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. There's some unique text though for Templars at the university. So there's actually some cool options. Specifically, Brigandine, I think here would be really good for you. Do you have a university yet?
I think no, not yet. But I think I do build one shortly.
In a bit. Okay.
Yeah, but it's like mainly for the biology. But you, my friend, are on the road to recovery. 49 villages. Look at you guys. 27 minutes in the game. 18 Ronins and 12 Black Riders. And all the sacred sites.
Yeah, I was able to kind of swoop into the middle here because I think Mike is a bit distracted. And I basically sent all my Ronin on a Ronin hunt. So they're looking for more Ronin to recruit. And I built a big army of Ronin. I'm like, oh, that's exciting. And more Ronin.
Oh, that's sick. Japan is featuring.
It's really cool.
So
yeah, I'm really excited about these points of interest, man. I'm really excited to see how it plays out. And I'm really excited. I want to see community suggestions for points of interest as well. So if you guys have good ideas, please let us know. It could be something we're able to implement and add to the game because, you know, it really does feel like the sky's the limit, especially if community reception is good. Like if people like this, we're gonna try and kind of build on the system.
I think it's a
really
positive
excited.
element. Like this concept of adding new things to the mid map, I'm always a fan of. So I am finally building a fortress. By the way, love the trebuchets of the Knights Templar. It does a 2-burst attack, which I think makes it better for sniping enemy units instead of buildings.
Yeah, it does make it slightly better. It has more DPS against structures. It looks really cool. They have slightly lower projectile, so they're a little more reliable at hitting things. Like their highest projectile point is a little bit lower. So there's a couple of advantages to them. But yeah, it's really interesting. And there's a tech at the university for that, which gives you a third projectile, which massively increases your DPS. Of course, that's kind of because they don't have access to the bombard, so sort of something needed to come into play to give them that big punch in the late game. Oh, when you're getting
You
the
ready,
trebuchet
Winston? Are you ready?
Oh yeah.
I'm bringing the power,
Nice.
baby. Booyah! We're in
gotta stop.
operation.
Yeah, and so you want to get that targeted onto the buildings ASAP. You can see it. Boom. And so it's just kind of a default trebuchet for now, at least. We'll see if it needs buffs or nerfs in the future. But the coolest thing about this is you can't snipe this trebuchet. So if this fortress is in a good spot like it is here, able to range down the enemy's base, they're gonna have to take care of the fortress before they can stop this like kind of infinite damage, right?
It also has 2 extra tower range over standard traps. Right? It's 18 tower range, which is pretty nuts. That means I should be able to reach about to the white tower eventually.
You can almost, you can see it. I think you're gonna be like a tile short of that, sadly, but yeah, it's really interesting. You can see if you click on it. So an interesting note, and I do want to call this out, is you can click on the fortress and target with it, but you can also click on the treb on top. The treb on top is kind of a distinct unit. It's kind of not something we've done before. You'll also notice this with the Chinese Great Wall Gatehouse. I don't know if you've seen one of those just yet, but that's a little sneak peek of what you can check out. It's no longer just apparating Nesta B shots from itself. The Great Wall Gatehouse now also has some Nesta Bs on top of it. And so yeah, it's really interesting. You're able to kind of independently target, and we'll see how that plays out with time.
I'm a little bit gutted I didn't get to build some stone walls because this does have some other things. I believe oh no, I'm thinking of Lancaster, right? Lancaster has a thing where the walls can get arrows that's added to
No, you were right. That's
No,
on
it says
Templar.
Templar, yes.
So the Templar influence is on their keep, the fortress, sorry. So which is
There we go,
Yeah, so that is the fortress influence. So it also extends from their Templar capital town center, which is called the Templar headquarters. But your stone walls can get a little bit of extra health, and they gain an arrow slit emplacement. This doesn't kind of snake out beyond the influence range, so it's just kind of in that central spot. But it does let you build kind of these really cool little bases and get a bunch of extra firepower for doing so.
Now, I know what's going to be said in the comments. KP, we're 30 minutes in the game. You haven't made a single pilgrimage. In my defense, how? I thought about this.
University?
No, I don't think I got to the university point in the end. This clash, it's ridiculous. He's just so fat.
Oh, that's a big army from Mike.
He's so
Lancaster
stacked.
ground forces.
So I did go for the Polish 4-2 to get the more health and more charge damage. But it is just, there's too much. I get rolled here.
There's a lot here.
Yeah. And then Drongo is waiting on the side. Wait.
Oh,
Wait, has
that's
he got
the werewolf trebuchet.
Yes! Okay, sick. We're going to see them.
Go to work at Donnarumma.
You talked about the gold trade.
so
These
they've
things
got
sick.
extra range. Yeah, they get that extra range, especially with the red player color. It's such a beautiful complement.
I think House of
like that
Lancaster
setup.
was designed for red. You can feel it.
It's really, really good looking indeed. And yeah, so they have that extra range and health, which makes them really, really potent. That 2 bonus range is insane.
Well, as you can see, I'm pretty much Donzo here. Sadly, we didn't get to the universities. Sandwiched between 2 English players. I think my exiting comment is, I'm going to go make a Reddit thread. England has struck again. He even brought Robotiquins. I'm dead at this point. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, interestingly for Lancaster, the only way you can get Rebalds is through the Wingard.
Yeah. And the Wingard has some other cool things in it. I don't think he bothered to go for them, but you can get the unique cavalry
has,
spam
right?
going.
Oh, but you can check out the Wingard, right?
Yes, right here. Yeah,
Oh, there
I
it is.
love
Yeah, you
these,
can
by
see
the
it
way.
has new options. Yeah.
The Demi Lancers are sick. I hope people get to see them on one of the other recordings. I really enjoyed them. They are super spammable once you get the economy line.
Look at that shot coming in.
Yeah, I get taken out. I get flopped dead. So big clash coming in here. We do have a lot of synchronized shot opportunities because I baited, and this is the thing. I get the assist for this, okay? I think Drongo's going to win this. I didn't see the outcome in the end. But I baited Mike to go mass spearman. Winston. That is caster teamwork right there. And he's destroying him. Wait. Is he just going to... I think he's going to roll him with Earl's Guards. Oh my god.
There's
oh my,
a lot.
Oh my god. Drongo, run! Run, Drongo! Why are we standing still?
There's a lot of Earl's Guards. It's a big armored unit, right? And remember, Mike got the 50 pop from killing Felipe. So he has a lot of extra space to work with, and I think he just got pop for killing you too, right?
Yes.
So his max pop is insane.
This is ridiculous. I had faith in the Yeoman, but my god, I swear, it's the tankiness on these things. Also, Drongo did kind of stand still with Yeoman a very long time there.
Yeah, the Earl's Guard are going to be a very good option, but what's happening in the north of Mike's Bakes?
Oh. We're here! It's the Riders and the Lost Ronin. They've come for a new home. Winston, I respect this. Balls against the walls. He's going for the king snipe. Oh my god, you can't actually run away from this. There's too many gunners.
Yeah, I think it might be a little too late. Obviously, it might be a bit of a spoiler, but I think the writing might be on the wall here for that king.
Get him! I have been redeemed. My brother co-caster. It is now down to a dev caster versus a degen caster who has to stay up in the middle of the night.
I think I'm going to get a little lucky here, though, right? Because Drongo, I didn't know this at the time, but Drongo just spent all of his forces against Mike.
Yes, and on top of that, is his king still... He moved in the Berkshire, right? Wait, where is his king?
I think in the south. I just checked.
He must be in the south. Oh, okay. Yeah. He's gone for the classic corner camp.
But there's a fight brewing.
And the Ronin. You know, I think you might have his number here. This is so... It's not even about the Ronin. The Ronin are just a tank for the 26 Daka boys on horseback.
Yeah, it's a really, really fun unit. I'm super excited to see how people play with this. Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy. I think some people are looking for it's ultra broken, but reminder, these things are 300 resources each.
Yeah, and you can only have as many keeps, so this is kind of like a very unique situation where Land Mega Random has so much stone, and I went the Elsbach, which like kind of gives you more access to Black Riders.
So he just kills it.
Yeah, I guess so. He was terrified of the army, but honestly, that might be my new favorite unit composition. Never played that before, but I might try to again. Black Rider Ronin. Just saying, very cool.
I think you need to add the Ronin to more maps is what I'm getting away from that. You know, like, I like that though. I think the cool thing about the Ronin thing is it's kind of like the neutral marketplace interaction for Byzantines, but almost a more easy to access thing. Because like most people feel weird trying to go out for the neutral marketplaces, right? It's cool in theory, but most people just play it safe. But if you just go out and capture these neutral things, I'm a big fan of these dynamics because I think it's kind of I think we've talked about it in the past. It's kind of like taking some inspiration from maybe like Company of Heroes capture system, which is how they generate resources, but we still have the traditional aspect. So it's just giving people options. I'm always a big fan of that because that's how you get that expression in the way that people want to play the game.
Yeah, and we definitely wanted to make sure that they're not like really crazy. Obviously, in this case, on Land Mega Random, there's just a ton of them, so it kind of embodies how crazy it can get. But there is a map, Enlightened Horizon, with a single Ronin camp, right? So the amount of total Ronin you can... I had 5 Ronin camps I came, so that's like really crazy, right? But normally it's much lower, and in a 1v1, for example, the gold cost is pretty intensive there, but it was just, you know, a unique situation where we're able to get so many. So the general vision for the points of interest is to have them be like kind of... How do I frame this? We want them to be like kind of minor, so not as important as, for example, a sacred site. Maybe something closer to like half a relic at times. Sometimes you can get a relic, but like there's a lot of risk there, right? Like for example, the Forgotten Ruin, where you can get a relic, your villager is there. So if the opponent comes and just captures the spot, the villager is going to get ejected from the site and just go down, right? And then the opponent can come and grab it, right? So there's some elements to that. I'm really excited to see how people kind of interact with it. Obviously, we'll work with feedback to improve the system. It's on a couple maps for now. We'll look to seeing how many we can add them to in the future, depending on feedback, of course. We want to hear from you guys about that. We're really excited about the system, but like you said, it's a matter of seeing how people play with it.
So there are a few things I wanted to ask you to round this out. It's a nice little piece to kind of close it out. First of all, like, when it comes to how you're designing the game, because we've mentioned Doe a few times, and I'm going to bring it back there because, like, I love the concept of, like, everything is broken, so nothing is broken. Do you feel like as you've started to find your comfort and your stride of Age of Empires 4 from a balanced and design perspective, you're getting more adventurous on taking more drastic, like, changes to see if they fit the game? Instead of like, you know, taking this sprinkle of let's add like 1 armor here or 1 damage here. Do you feel like you and the team are more open to doing drastic, big, cool things for new civs, new maps, etc., than you were, say, 2 years ago?
Well, it's very situational. So I wouldn't say for example, I would say we're always on board for the minor balance tweaks. I think those always have a place, and we're never going to stop doing those, right? Like, it's a very important element of keeping the game fair and fun. In terms of like the bigger updates versus like kind of sprinkling in like smaller changes and going incrementally, I think it depends on the style and how the updates will come in the future, right? So at the moment and in the past, we've kind of been working with a couple big seasonal updates, and the goal is to make sure that those are kind of interesting moments where players can kind of look at a fresh perspective, look at the game with a fresh perspective. So we want to make sure that there's always something that kind of makes you go, if you're reading the patch notes on a big content update, which is the big season. So when a season ends and a new season starts, we want there to be something for players to go, okay, like what's that, right? And that's part of keeping the game fresh more than like kind of making it, not necessarily than making it like more refined, right? Which is what a balance patch does, right? When you just aim for balance, you could almost argue trimming stuff and like doing stuff is going to be easier because you're more likely to understand the outcome. Whereas like a big design update to something like we did in the last season, right, with the late game, right? We mixed up we like totally mixed up the university with the university update. We kind of changed how siege works, so a lot of things for the late game. That was a big kind of grenade into the balance and the feel of the game, right? And I think we'll continue to explore options. Probably not always that big to like the entirety of the game as a university update. That was kind of a unique thing where it felt like it was a long time coming. We could do more of that in the future. I'm not going to say when, but especially for civs, we're going to make sure we're trying to make sure that all the civs feel unique, that they always have a space in the game, that they have a bunch of unique playstyles. That's always our goal. So something we're starting to cook away on for not the season that's about to start, but the next season is a big JD update. So Jeanne d'Arc has a lot of similarities in its current playstyle with base French. So I don't want to guarantee, I can't 100% guarantee that'll be in the next update. But the goal is the next season, which I don't know, somewhere, halfway through the year, right?
Yeah.
Somewhere potentially, right? It could always be subject to change with that kind of thing. But with that Jeanne d'Arc update, we're really looking to make sure it stands out from base French while retaining its unique elements and maybe even trying to accent those unique elements more, like the hero, make sure it's more of the game, make sure it's more fun, more options, maybe more abilities, right? Who knows?
I like
Lots
that.
of cool things there. Maybe more units, unique stuff. We'll see. Can't confirm anything there though, because that's quite a ways off, and we're just starting that up. And then, like you saw in this patch, we had the HRE update, so you just saw the Black Riders and a cool game there, so I think that's kind of a testament to what we're trying to do. And into the core gameplay, we're adding the points of interest. So I think we're trying to do what you're saying.
Yeah.
We'll see how we can keep that up, though. It's always interesting, right?
I think it's like the idea, and this is my feeling when you guys came with Jean, is you didn't want to make it too different because you already made it so different with the hero. So you wanted to test the waters and then refine. And I think where we're seeing that, especially in my mind now, is maps. So someone I've been like very vocal with is, and maybe you agree or disagree, historically it feels like AoE 4 is quite often tried to copy and paste what 2 has done, but they're very different games, so it doesn't always work, right? Like they have a Karasan, we'll have like a Four Lakes as well, etc. Whereas now with these points of interest, these type of different mechanics, and maybe I don't know if the pro scouts change and the wall changes will wake up to this as well, is you can completely flip the state of the game by adding a new mechanic for generic implementation, right? Like map changes that also allows you to flip the table without saying, let's take the nerf bat out, and all of a sudden, like 40% of the player base that plays English are now mad at you.
Yeah, that's definitely something we found, especially with so many matchups in the game. We want to make sure that when we make a balance change to a civ, we generally aim for fun, because there's so many different interactions that you can have with other civs. It's very hard to like, unless something is like very obviously underpowered or overpowered, it's very hard to like just maneuver something very slightly so that it's like more played in this, but like maybe you do that and then in half of its matchups, if the player doesn't have armor and feudal age, for example, you make a change and then suddenly, oh, now it's an 80% win rate against those, right? So that's something we try to avoid because too many mismatches, and there's a lot of matchups, so we try to make sure that it's not like too crazy. So generally, like you said, I think like generic stuff like the points of interest is definitely an attempt at that, right? Like add more tools to the map makers. We're excited to see what, like, I mean, a modded map as well could make use of these in creative ways. So excited to see how that goes. Very cool. But yeah, like you said, I think just adding more to the base game is always cool for all civs to explore and share is very fun. And points of interest are an attempt at that. Yeah.
Now, obviously, you can't say what's being developed, but are there any wild changes you've seen suggested by the community that, like, you've sat there personally going, ooh, I kind of like that idea, right?
Oh, off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's some where it's more coincidence. We spend a lot of time on these updates, right? Like some of the changes on in this season that you'll see in the patch notes soon, and we just saw with points of interest. Like we've been spending quite a lot of like many months. So it's with how many community members we have, and all just always talking about the game, which is so awesome. And we do try to read as much as we can. There's coincidence there. At other times, I'm trying to think about stuff like there's been funny coincidences where people like will have a Reddit thread or a forum post about something, and then we're like, oh, we're doing that. They're right. Like they know.
Yeah.
So I'm sure if you look at the forum post and then compare it to like how we're doing stuff, it can line up quite nicely. Trying to think of the last time we read a forum post and then implemented it though.
It feels. I think you're right.
Because of the post.
There's so many
I'm not sure.
overlaps. It's hard to remember where things came from. Like
Mhm.
I remember getting the person when the Spring change came in, because then I had a flashback memory to when I first met Maito at Red Bull World Legacy. I was like, man, it would be cool if like hand cannoneers had an ability where they like shot and they penetrated through to make them more unique. And like obviously it was the hand cannoneers, but now we have the Spring doing it. It's like there's so many overlaps of ideas. It's like, and it's anyone can have an idea. It takes a lot of effort to then refine it into something that fits.
Funny story about that actually, KP, is hand cannoneers, way before release, actually did that. Well before the game came out. So this was like even a year before the game came out or more, maybe 2 years before. Hand cannoneers actually had a piercing projectile at the time. That didn't end up staying because at the time there were sort of technical issues that we had to iron out for the Springald to work. I mean, even then there was a bug with the Springald that we had to like fix pretty quickly, right? No, that was just in the pup, so we fixed it for the release of that season. But like, it was a lot of stuff that had to get fixed for that. But yeah, no, see, that's one of those examples, right? You're like, oh, I wonder if hand cannoneers had that, and like clearly someone at the time thought that was a good idea, and that's why it was a part of the game. So yeah, just an example of how like, yeah, it's so cool.
How many iterations do you think you went through to get these two civs to where they are now?
Iterations?
Yeah.
Oh.
Like
what do you
rough
define?
figure.
How would you define an iteration? Like a balance
so
change, like a number tweak, or like a design change that is substantial?
So you can do both roughly. So like, mechanic or like something new introduced, or something removed. So I think people usually think iteration means adding things, but as well as I do, iteration can be taking things away, right? So like if you think about like give two figures, right? One for like new things added, like mechanics, units, etc., and the other can be for just micro adjustments included.
Well, I guess I'll go from the stance of like the development process, right? We start with the paper design, then we do our initial implementation, usually with like prototype stuff. So the art team hasn't, finished anything yet at that point, right? So it's all prototypes, and just like as quickly as we can get it in, so we can start playing, right? And so if you think about it from that element, like we would be updating the game daily for just months and months and months, right? So it depends on what your definition, how small of a change is an iteration, right? Because like in our eyes, everything is iteration, right? At that stage.
Sure.
So it'd be 6 months at least of iteration, right?
I guess like
4 or
dev
5 months
pushes
of
maybe.
design iteration.
Yeah.
In terms of like big systems, like changing a lot, which is I guess kind of what you were talking about, like at times the house unified, for example, is the bonus where keeps grant you 3 Earl's guards when they finish, and then each keep you have increases Earl's guard damage, right? That's kind of like the system now, but that went through several iterations of different designs, right? So there's some stuff where we're like really sure about it. There were times when the manor generated different resources. Right now it generates food and wood. The first idea was just gold, right? So clearly as you go through the development process of playtest with the players you saw in the first 1v1, they're playing the game every day and checking it out, and we're talking in our design meetings and just iterating a lot. Some designs, we hit it pretty well at the start. Others take some time to get there, right?
That actually just made me think. I don't know if you can say, but like when you were iterating through House of Lancaster, was there ever a point where you thought of having like almost a civil war balance type mechanic?
Oh, with like the House of York, right?
Yeah, right. Like some like you have to balance the way that you do your economy with people, but if you don't, the peasants will rebel. But if you do it well, you get buffs.
Yeah, and I've seen that done in other games. Kind of like the 4X games can kind of get away with mechanics like that. I think something we thought of with sort of the balance. So I think the game design term would be like a balance of power mechanic, where you have like some sort of like bonuses on this side, negatives on this side, or bonuses to negatives, or like bonus plus negative versus kind of inverting it on the other side, right? And so you can kind of have
You can have
that
things
slider
like, for
between the two.
example, production is
Yeah.
slower, but the units are better quality, or production is faster and the units are like trash, right? It's like scraping the
Yeah,
barrel, those type of
exactly.
things. Yeah.
I think we found that like in general, like AoE4 is already very hard for players to macro. Like we want to make sure that mechanics are fun and easy to implement and exact upon, right? As a player trying to execute your strategy, right? So that's why it's like the manor. Like there's a lot of strategy around when to do it, but like if you want to build a manor, you build the manor, right?
Yeah.
And I think kind of part of the balance of power concept and how it's and what I don't know why I keep doing that, but that's like how I'm envisioning it. It's like the little
The
thingy,
the House of
like a dial.
Roses. They
No, no, no.
the
I'm thinking of
roses.
like the dial. Like
Oh,
it's
okay,
like
yeah.
ticking up and then ticking down, and there's like the neutral spot, right? But like if we overdid that and made you have to think about that, then I could see situations where a player's like stuck in the wrong state, or maybe like not able to like change quick enough, or like they're just not able to exact their vision for how the game should play out quick enough or in a compelling and like fulfilling way, right? And so that's why like techs kind of need to have like immediate like benefits. That's why like other elements of the game need to like kind of
It's
be a little more simple to execute, and then it's the collection of them that creates the strategy and macro elements. At least that's my vision for how AoE4, or my understanding of how AoE4
I,
works.
I think, yeah, what it sounds like aiming for is you want these systems that people can interact with, but you don't want them to be punished for not doing it. You want them to be rewarded for doing it, if that makes sense, right? And like a balance of power type system, it punishes you if you do it wrong, right? Like that's the nature. Whereas the things that we
Yeah.
see with these civs, they are added perks. You can still play without them. There is an argument you're going to play worse, but you don't feel it in a way like the game is being mean to you, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've definitely avoided negatives, right? Which is a big element of game design, right? When you give a bonus, you can give a negative, right? You see that in items in some ARPGs where you get an item where it gives you a super big bonus, but a huge malice, right? And I think generally we avoid malices as much as possible, which isn't the case in all age titles. It's just in this one, I can't think of a single malice we have. Like an upgrade with a positive and a negative. I don't think,
No,
are
we
there
don't.
any?
I don't
There are
think.
none.
I'm not sure there is. Maybe
And I
like,
think that, and that's intentional. But
yeah.
so if there is one, whoops.
I think like if there was, that was going to be almost like the weird interactions of the past, right? Like melee when it wasn't meant to trigger on range units, like in the early version of the game. But
Oh yeah.
one thing I'm thinking of actually, and it doesn't have to be the next Civ coming. What Civ do you want to see added to Age of Empires 4 the most?
Ooh. I think legally speaking, I cannot answer that question. No, not quite. I mean, I have a lot of good, like just in the sense that like, if I say I have a favorite,
You're worried that
people
it's
will
like
think that's
obvious
the
you're going
one.
for.
Yeah, so I don't think I can really answer that one. I think
You don't
there's a
want to
lot of
throw
really,
a
really
curveball of something
there's
that's
a lot
never getting
of
made?
really cool just cultures to explore in unique ways. And I think the way that AoE4 exists, it's so unique in that like the way that cultures are expressed
Yeah.
is through like a very dynamic set of economic systems. Like for example, you have the manor, the sheep, and like how all those come together. For Lancaster, you have like the pilgrims and the fortresses like kind of incorporating each other into like kind of telling the story of the Civ. We always think about that, when you think about like AoE2, for example, you have just just a couple bullet points essentially of phrases to tell the story of a people.
Yeah.
That is so hard, and that's something, on that team, we work really hard to make sure that is like concise, like nails the story, but also paints a picture of players, and they're able to kind of feel immersed by just such a small concise painting, or a small concise bullet point. But then compared to AoE4, we have so much design space. It's really crazy. The foundation of AoE4 has so much space to make so many like elements, and you'll see it in Knights of Cross and Rose if you order and pre-order and buy it and play it. Like every tech is part of the story of these people, and so yeah, I think there's so many Civs we could do that
It
I think
excites me.
would not have been portrayed in any other way except for in AoE 4. So I'm excited for what the future holds for AoE 4. Look, I want all the civs. I want them all.
I mean,
I want to explore
I
every
want them
continent.
all,
You know,
and I
I want the penguins of Antarctica. Even come on.
I think you guys have done a great job. And guys, you should definitely be checking this out. We have got a creative preview coming up from the 3rd to the 8th. This is going to be showing quite early for that. But there'll be plenty of extra content created by me, by Beastie, by Drongo. We're the 3 people that are going to have very early content up for you guys, but there'll also be many other creators that will be working around it. The release date is on the 8th. The prices, remind me, Winston, because I'm going to say it in pounds, is at $15.
15 USD.
There we
15
go.
USD. 15% discount if you pre-order. And yeah, so that's short window, so make sure to get that in. Yeah, and the creator preview is going up on the 3rd, like you mentioned. This video will be going out on the 2nd, so tomorrow from when this video goes out, right? Very, very excited. Hope you guys enjoyed the interview. Hope you guys appreciated the insight and the time I was able to, you know, and I hope you enjoyed the games, right? We had some cool games there. We got Black Rider Ronin compositions in there. We got Yeoman synchronized shot, Earl's Guard dagger throws, and it all.
I don't
right?
know where to begin. There's just so many new things to
A
explore.
lot.
You guys
There's a
done a
lot.
fantastic job. Like, you know, and we didn't even
Oh,
see.
Thank you.
No, seriously, I mean it, man. Like, I have a unique perspective, right? Like, I studied game design. I've done a bit of software dev. I do the casting side, the content creation side. It's like I always try to be empathic to all like elements. And I think you guys are unsung heroes. You do a lot of work. You can't always say what you're doing, but it's clear you work hard. And I think most community can agree. You in particular, when we get you on camera, like we can see your enthusiasm, right? You're like the kid in the nursery who just got given a toy for the first time, and you love that toy so much, and you want to tell everyone about that. You match the enthusiasm levels of my 3-year-old daughter, and she is like smiles, screaming in happiness all the time. I mean
Well,
that
I mean,
all as compliments.
Everybody, you know, I understand. Everybody, I think, at FE, at Relic, at World's Edge, Climax, all the studios involved, we all love the game. We're super excited and happy for everybody. I'm just one of many. We have a lot of really passionate devs working on these projects, and so we're really, really thrilled to bring you guys Knights of Cross and Rose, and we're excited for what's to come in the future as well. So yeah, thank you so much, KP, for having me, and yeah, that's it.
It's a pleasure, Winston. So reminder, guys, check it out. Make sure you go across to the page, pre-order it now. There's a small discount. Even if it's full price, honestly, I've had a little bit of behind the curtain already, and I think it's worth the $15 admission fee. Go support, because Age of Empires 4 2025 is looking bright, and I hope this is a successful Song to Send so that 2026 is like meteoric, because I think Age of Empires 4, the work you guys have put in, after 4 years, it's like if the game had been like this at release, biggest RTS in the world right now. And I think more people need to realize that. So thank you everyone for watching the video. Make sure you share it around. Make sure you get hyped up. And we'll see you all in the Knights of Cross and Rose.